I think it was a combination of the factors that you mentioned. So it was both economic and political, and also just general hope for self-preservation of European nations. Because if you look at European history, it's essentially a history of conflict and fragmentation. Europe was divided into dozens of different states, different kingdoms and dukedoms and other little statelets that would form alliances with some and fight against others. And these alliances were constantly shifting and changing, and it was essentially centuries and centuries of misfortune and trouble on the European continent. And eventually, this culminated in the two world wars, which proved to be extremely damaging, extremely costly, both economically and in terms of human lives. And after the second one, there was a general consensus that this was not the way to go forward, and that in order to prevent further conflict, the European countries needed to kind of be on the same boat, in the same boat, be united. And so they started by so initially there were six countries that created the first predecessor of the of what is now the European Union, and it was gradually expanding, absorbing other countries, and essentially in that respect it's been a success. It's proven to be successful economically, in the sense that these countries were able to eliminate economic barriers to economic ties with one another. They created a single market where you can trade with people, with firms in other European countries. People can move to other European countries for work or to study. They can live in other European countries and so on. And you can move capital as well. So firm from one European country can easily move to another and create a subsidiary or completely relocate and so on. So all of this increases efficiency. It improves allocation of resources, and all of that is positive. So it was an economic success. It was also a political success because it created this huge union of democracies, combining democracies with institutions that govern it, with a separate electoral process. We have elections, European elections as well, and it led to a situation where Europe, instead of being fragmented and kind of arguing, different countries arguing with one another, now has a common voice and can participate in international negotiations, can be a counterpart to when it comes to economic and political ties or disputes with other large countries or large bodies. So yeah, this is essentially my view, and I think a fairly consensual view, consensus-based view of European integration.
Okay, so it means there was some economic and political interest, and also they wanted some like peaceful situation in which the trade they can do trade and also go for international cooperation as well. And do you think there was some kind of, European identity was also involved? Like before the European Union or integration, people in Europe considered themselves like European as an identity? Or do you think that's after the means creation of European Union, the identity is like very big thing?
I think this is something which is still being in the process of being created. So I don't think that there's a clearly defined European identity, uh, but most people have a sort of combined identity. So most people would see themselves as Europeans and Germans, or Europeans and Poles or Italians. So there is some common element in terms of identity, but there's also still a strong sense of national distinctiveness of the different nations, and sometimes even regional distinctiveness. You have regions of some countries that have their own identities. In Belgium, you have people who are Flemings who feel very different from the Walloons and so on. In Germany, you have some regions where people also have their separate identity to some extent. People in Munich are German, but they are also Bavarian and they're European. So there's this kind of melange of different identities. And essentially, the fact that one of the identities that people identify with, that they associated with themselves, the fact that there's also this European element is one of the successes of European integration.